Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sportsbook Confidential. My name's John Sullivan, and I'm coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. And first show in September is basically our anniversary show. So I guess you could say it's our third anniversary, but we're starting our fourth football season here in the studio, and I'm super excited. Got a great show for you today. We're finishing up our NFL previews with the NFC East, and we're going to do a quick talk about the motorsports this weekend in NASCAR and Formula One. And then I've modeled some college football games for you for this weekend, and I am going to talk about next Thursday's NFL game, and I'm going to have a pick for you for that game because we won't be back till next Friday. So my first pick of the NFL season. Very excited about that. So before we get to all that great stuff, let's do what we always do and update my bankroll. And probably my worst week in, a couple of months for sure. Starting bankroll was $300. I was a big believer in New Mexico State, and they were thumped at home by UTEP. Not even close. Minus $10 to the bankroll. UConn plus 27.5, also another big loser. I think they lost 45-0. Half a unit on that one, minus $5 to the bankroll. Had the Alouettes money line last Friday. It was a 3-point game in the fourth quarter, and they threw a really bad interception that turned the game around for Hamilton. So $10, minus 10 to the bankroll. Ohio State last night, minus 13.5. Boy, what a sweat that was. They win by 14, so plus $9 to the bankroll on that one. And then the Daytona race last week, I had 4 bets at a half a unit each. That went from super good to super bad in the last lap of the race. I had Corey LaJoie and Chris Buescher top 10 bets, and they were running second and third with a lap and a half to go. And Buescher finished second but failed inspection, so he ended up last. And Corey LaJoie crashed on the last lap, and I think he finished like 17th or something like that. But it was a crazy race, and that's part of the bingo card you get when you play, when you bet on restrictor plate races. So not a great week for the bankroll. If you do the math, minus $36, so it makes our new bankroll $264. Dividing by 30 as we always do because we try to remain selective. We're going to make our bet size $9 going forward this week. So hopefully we can grind some bankroll during football season. So we'll do the best we can. So before we get into this week's games, we're going to do our last preview of the NFL. And we're talking about the NFC East. And the reason why I saved them for last is because their odds were down for most of the summer. The New York Giants, Philadelphia Eagles, Washington football team to be named later, and the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is the betting favorite for a variety of reasons, including they're one of the most popular teams in the league, and their quarterback has had obviously had a major injury last year, Dak Prescott, and has had some issues. Precautionary issues this summer, and whenever they think he might be injured, the odds immediately go off the board. So we're going to take them north to south, and we're going to start with the Giants, and we're going to see here that the Giants, there's basically, in this division, there's co-favorites and co-non-favorites, and the Giants are one of the co-non-favorites at plus 525. So they're considered a long shot in this division at 525, which means we really don't know what's going to happen in this division. To win the NFC, the Giants 43-1. To win the Super Bowl, 128-1. Those are a lot better odds than I got when I bet my Giants future. I basically took a Super Bowl future on every team except the Cowboys because the Cowboys were such a favorite. I think they were overvalued. So all the other teams of the division were undervalued, but they're undervalued even more now. So if you want to put a little Domino's pizza money on one of those teams, go right ahead. So New York Giants got Danny Dimes Daniel Jones, and Mike Glennon at quarterback. Of course, I list the skill positions. For those of you that play fantasy football, you want to see who's listed on the depth charts and, adjust your rosters accordingly. Running back, we got Saquon Barkley and Devontae Booker. Obviously, Saquon is returning healthy, expected to be returning healthy like Dak Prescott is for Dallas. If he can play a full season, what an amazing improvement that would be for the Giants in so many ways. At wide receiver, Kenny Golladay, Sterling Shepard, and Darius Slayton. At tight end, the oft-injured Evan Ingram and Kyle Rudolph. I couldn't remember where he had gone to. I remember he used to be with Minnesota, and then there he is with the Giants, the veteran. Ingram is tremendous potential. He's just been continually injured year in and year out. That's another player that if he can put a full season together, it'd be interesting to see what kind of numbers he could put up. The kickers, Graham Gano. And the Giants come in with a healthy offensive line, no depth at the left tackle, and a 3-4 defense with two linebackers, inside linebackers currently on the COVID list. So this is COVID is going to play a big part in this NFL season. The NFL has very strict rules about COVID, and a couple of the teams are already 100% vaccinated. So there will be forfeit rules if games cannot be rescheduled. That I don't know if we're going to find any betting opportunities from these COVID issues, but the NFL makes its money on that sweet TV ad revenue, and they want those games to go. So we'll see what kind of product they put on the field. So, like I said, offensive weapons need to stay healthy to take the pressure off of Daniel Jones. And this, Saquon Barkley being healthy for a full season does not necessarily mean he has to touch the ball 25, 30 times a game. It just means that he has to be a presence on the field. He has to be a potential target, a potential touch, and that takes pressure off of Daniel Jones. When he's not in the game and Sterling Shepard is not in the game and Evan Ingram is not in the game, well, it's just the defense teeing off on the quarterback. And there needs to be some distraction, some confusion to make it a little harder on opposing defenses. Joe Judge, the coach of the Giants, must build his own house. That's my opinion. And I feel like last year they had, coaching arguments and came clubhouse fist fights. And he's got to build his own house. He's got to build a community. He's got to build a team that wants to be there, that wants to be together. And that includes the coaching staff. That includes the organization. I don't know how close they are to that, but that's one of those things where I think like Miami is a team that has done, the Dolphins is a team that has done that in the past. I don't know if they're there yet with Tua, but a similar thing needs to happen. So the Giants, of course, were actually playing for the division at 6-10 in the last week of the season, but it ended up going to the New York Football Giants. But before we get to the Washington Football Team, before we get to Washington, let's talk about Philly, which I think as a team, even though they're the long shot in this division, I think they are extremely undervalued right now. To win the division plus 550, to win the NFC 40-1, to win the Super Bowl 110-1. Of course, quarterback, you've got Jalen Hurts and Gardner Minshew, who they just picked up from the Jaguars, and Joe Flacco, the former elite quarterback. At running back, you've got Miles Sanders and Boston Scott as your top pair. Wide receiver, Devonta Smith, Rieger, and Quez Watkins as your top three. Not awe-inspiring, of course. But at tight end, you've got Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. And that's a solid pair. I think Goedert might be considered the starter at this point because Ertz just signed. But that would be a really nice combination to stow away on your fantasy team. Jake Elliott, the kicker. The starting left tackle for the Eagles is week to week with a knee. He's not back. He's not ready yet. They think he might be ready for week 1. They don't know. Left tackle is a premium position in the league, and they might be trying to trade him. I don't know. A deep 4-3 defense. Got depth injuries at cornerback, so if their starters go down, I'd be worried about the pass defense. Need an answer at quarterback and health on defense. So basically, ever since Carson Wentz first got seriously hurt, they have not had, that year they had a very good team. Nick Foles took over and took them to the Super Bowl. Since then, they have not had an answer at quarterback. Nick Foles came back the next year, did not do a good job. Wentz came back, did not do a good job. Jalen Hurts has the reins right now, but they need an answer at quarterback. Whether it ends up being him or Gardner Minshew, I don't know. I'm a believer in Gardner Minshew being a quality starting quarterback. I think he's at least as good as a Fitzpatrick. I think, I don't want to say he was set up to fail in Jacksonville, but I think he did pretty good with what he had to work with there. And, of course, health on defense. This is going to be a team that I don't think is going to be explosive. So their scoring defense is going to have to be good this season, and they're going to have to try to avoid giving up big plays. And if they find their quarterback and they stay healthy on defense, I think this is a team that can compete for the division. I'm not saying they're Super Bowl contenders, but they're in the mix. I think all these teams are in the mix, just like last year. So let's move on to the Washington football team, which may be called something else within the next year or so. To win the division, basically co-favorites at plus 152. To win the NFC, 18-1. To win the Super Bowl, about 40-1. I took a future on them at 60-1 to win the Super Bowl. Basically right after they announced that Dak was healthy and ready to come back earlier this summer. So they've got Ryan Fitzpatrick, a.k.a. Fitzmagic, a.k.a. the Amish Rifle, and Taylor Heineke, who they signed to a 3-year deal. He was their third-string quarterback who was a rookie last year and came in and actually played pretty well. They must not believe in him because they went out and got Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is a quality, serviceable, mid-level NFL quarterback. I was very disappointed that they took Tua to start over him, but I guess they wanted to see what they had in Tua in Miami. Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick are the running back combination, and then Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and De'Ami Brown are the wide receivers. Logan Thomas and Sammy Reyes, the tight ends. Not an awe-inspiring receiving core, but Fitzpatrick will get, he never puts up insane numbers, but he will get the most out of what he has. I like the running game here. This FedEx Field in Washington, D.C., so many players have been injured on that field. Robert Griffin got his career ruined on that field. Alex Smith got his second huge injury on that field. Colt McCoy broke his leg on that field. Joe Burrow hurt himself last year on this field. Hopefully these running backs will stay healthy. Hopefully the quarterbacks will stay healthy. I really feel like they should go to field turf or change the grass completely there. Dustin Hopkins is the kicker. You got the offensive line coming in completely healthy. That's good. We'll see if the running game will take it up to another level. It was like intermittent last year. They'd have some really good rushing games, but they'd usually end up getting behind and have to throw the ball. 4-3 defense is elite. You could argue that this is the best defense in the league. I think it's definitely in the top 2 or 3. I think you can't argue it's lower than that if it's healthy. There's a lot, with all the talk of the front 7 and Chase Young, there's a lot of depth at defensive back on this team, which will, if they can take away the big play from opposing teams, that allows that pass rush to really dial it up. So Riverboat Ron needs health, and that's not. I mean, he's been battling cancer, and I don't mean it that way. But he needs health on his team at quarterback and running back. That's what's got to happen this season, which hasn't happened for like the last 2 or 3 years. And I see similarities in this defense to the Panthers defense that Rivera built when he took that team to the Super Bowl into multiple division titles. So I feel like this team is poised to take that next step. The question is the offense. It's not the defense. And fortunately, they're in a division where there's really only one other team that has an explicitly better offense than they do, and that is the Dallas Cowboys. So the big question is, can they score enough to keep up with that offense? And if they can, they're definitely a favorite or co-favorite to win that division. And then finally, let's go to America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, also known as the Jerrys. To win the division, plus 147, almost identical to Washington. To win the NFC, almost 15-1. And to win the Super Bowl, 34-1. So, obviously, Dak Prescott is their starting quarterback. And as he goes, so goes the team. They are much more efficient and explosive when he is in the game. He is a dual threat to run or throw the ball. Cooper Rush is the backup. He is the number 2 for better or for worse. I guess they felt like Andy Dalton was the guy last year, but he wasn't. And they tried a few other people, and that's who they have. And I guess Mike McCarthy feels like that's the plan B. You've got Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard as the running backs. That's been the way it's been for the last couple of years. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and I know it's not spelled that way, but I just had a little bit of space there. And then Gallup is the top 3 wide receivers. All very good wide receivers. Dalton Schultz and Blake Jarwin as the tight ends. They have been consistent role players, equally pass catching and run blocking. And Greg Zuerlein is the kicker, Greg the leg, but he is coming off the IR, was injured last year, and the Cowboys actually just signed a couple weeks ago Lirim Hajrullahu. So I'm not sure if Zuerlein's ready to come back for week 1, but if you're going to pick him in your fantasy team, you might want to double-check that. Offensive line coming in completely healthy, which is great news for the running game. Dak Prescott injured his ankle running the football, and it was one of those open field injuries. It was just a freak injury. It was not because of poor pass blocking or run blocking, so that really doesn't fall on the offensive line. But they need, all the pieces of the offense to be elite, because this is a team that's just going to have to outscore its opponents, and obviously that's the point of the game, is to outscore your opponent. But the problem is going to be on the defense. Now, the flex defense equally deep, what I mean by that is they can run a 3-4 or a 4-3. They have the equal amount of depth on the defensive line and the linebacking crew. But there are some defensive line injuries that are unresolved. 3 of the top 4, we're not sure if they're all going to be ready for week 1 or medically cleared for week 1. So that could be an issue. And the defense was so poor last year. The scoring defense was one of the worst in the league, if not the worst. And this is a team that if they have to score 35 to 40 points a game to win every week, is going to struggle. It's going to be a 500 team. Because the variance of the offense is in the NFL is pretty substantial, in my opinion. Unless you're the type of team that likes to grind out 20 to 17 wins, this defense is going to give up 30 points a game. So will they be able to score 31 to 35 points on the regular? If you average 35 points a game for an NFL season, you basically just set the scoring record for the NFL, for a team in a season. So especially because there's 17 games this year. So I don't know if that's really realistic. So we have to see what this defense has. I wrote down here, desperately need a backup quarterback. Obviously, that's a pun on backup quarterback. I don't really know if Cooper Rush is the answer. Defense must improve to advance outside of the division. Yeah, they need to have their scoring defense down below 25 points a game to be a serious playoff contender. Otherwise, it's just, maybe win the division, host a playoff game, and then go home and go golfing. So, it's going to be a fun team to watch. I'm sure they're going to be on TV a lot. And if Dak's playing, there's going to be a lot of scoring. So that'll be fun. We'll have to see how they price the over-unders, and that may come into play here later in the show. All right, so that's it for the NFL. Let's quickly talk about motorsports, and then I'm going to go on to the football that's coming up in the next week, and we'll have some plays for you. The Dutch Grand Prix is this Sunday, and it's the first time that there's a Dutch Grand Prix since 1985. And it's at the Zandvoort Circuit, which is very historical. They ran a race there for 32 years, something like that. Jim Clark won it 4 times. I don't know if you people know who that is, but he's a very famous race car driver from the 60s. Right now, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen are equal at plus 110. Those are they're two competitors for the championship. Lewis Hamilton was faster in practice, but Max Verstappen is Dutch, so this is his home track. He may be more motivated to win. We talked last week about how Max Verstappen's team has had a couple of crashes, and they only get 3 engines for the season. So you wonder about the reliability of their engines, and we'll have to see. But it doesn't look like there's much value in betting on either side in this race. And while we're on the topic of motorsports, let's quickly go to the Southern 500. This is the oldest track in NASCAR, Darlington. They always have a Labor Day race. It is the first playoff race. There's 10 races left in the season. And the playoffs, you are racing for points. Obviously, you get the most points for a win, but the object is to not be in the bottom 4. So they start with 16 drivers. After 3 races, they drop 4. After 3 more races, they drop 4. After 3 more races, they drop 4. And then the last final race of the season, the 4 drivers that are left, whoever finishes at the top between the 4 wins the championship. So points matter. So finishing, 25th instead of 30th is very important to a driver. Finishing, 11th instead of 16th is very important to a driver that's in the playoffs. So you need to keep that in mind. Drivers that might go for a win during the regular season might not during the playoffs, and vice versa. Kyle Larson's probably one of his best tracks. He's the favorite at plus 300. Kevin Harvick has 5 top 5 finishes in the last 6 races here. He's 10-1. That's pretty good odds. I do not really have a pick for this race, but if you really want something to wager on, Kurt Busch, the number 1 car, I think is plus 140 or plus 150 for a top 10 finish. He has very good stats here. I think that's a great bet. So there's a free pick for you, but that's not going on my record. All right, let's look at some NCAA football. And I have modeled a select number of games here to give you some interesting things to look at. Early season modeling is usually not as accurate as late season modeling. And we don't have a lot of data to go on, especially because last year was a COVID year. A lot of teams played a limited schedule. And historically, my college football model does not do very well on, I don't find it to have a confidence on large spreads, as opposed to spreads that are single digits. I tend to believe in more than spreads that are like 35, 38 points. And, obviously in college, you'll have a 40-point spread. So let's take a look at what I've previewed here for you. We have Michigan State at Northwestern tonight. Northwestern minus 3, 45.5. My model has Northwestern as 14.5-point favorites. 41.78 is the total. Obviously, I like Northwestern here. It looks like Michigan State is headed for a rebuilding year. We never know for sure, but the fact that it's only a field goal at home. So this basically means if it was in a neutral site, it would be a pick'em game. The model on every metric just loves Northwestern, so I really like that game. Stanford and Kansas State in Dallas, neutral site game. Kansas State minus 353 the total. I have Stanford as 2.26 point favorite, 58.17. So that swings 5 points different towards Stanford, like Stanford there. Bama and Miami, Florida on a neutral site. Bama's 19-point favorite, 61 is the total. I have Alabama as a 29.39 point favorite, 67.34 total. This is a game where, I just said that I don't like the large spreads. You have the number one team against the number 16 team in the country, but Alabama is that good. They really are. At 19 points, I like Alabama. I really do. This game is interesting to me. Oregon State at Purdue. Purdue minus 7.5. A very nice total of 69. I have Purdue as a 1.5 point favorite and the total 60.52. I really like the under here. I like Oregon State plus 7.5. At 7, I didn't like it that much, but 7.5, I like it a lot more. But I really like the under. These teams putting up 70 points, I don't know. Not in week 1. Syracuse at Ohio. Hate to tell you this, Syracuse fans. I don't think Syracuse is going to be very good. We have Ohio as a 1 point underdog at home, 56 the total. I have Ohio as a 4 point favorite in this game, so it swings 5 points to Ohio. Now, here in New York, we're not allowed to bet on New York college teams, so we can't wager on this game. And I have the total at 54.32. So the Syracuse offense, the Dino Babers offense, is designed to score high points. It's designed to be efficient, quick, up-tempo offense. If you don't see that out of Syracuse in these first couple of games, it's going to be a long, long season because this is a team that's designed to win games like 35-28. It's designed to outscore their opponents. And they haven't had the personnel the last couple of years to compete, and I'm not sure they've made that leap this year. Here's a big one. Georgia and Clemson, neutral site. It's in North Carolina. Minus 350. I have Clemson as minus 3.9. 57.18. So my model likes the over here. Excuse me. Clemson, if they can win, they're in a really good spot, basically. If they lose this game, they're 0-1. But the rest of their schedule, they do not play a ranked team. So they can go 11. They could lose this game badly and go 11-1 and probably still make the playoff. If they win this game, they probably go 12-0, 13-0, and go to the playoffs as the number one seed. Alabama has just a much, much, much tougher schedule. And here's another great game late at night. LSU at UCLA, the acronym bowl. LSU is 3 point favorite, 65 is the total. I have LSU as a 4.74 favorite. 71.2 is the total. So I like the over here. But model likes the over. I don't. I think LSU is going to make it very difficult for UCLA to score. UCLA scored quickly on the ground last week against Hawaii, and those long runs are not going to happen. So it's going to shorten the game. They're not going to see a lot of 65-yard runs. It's going to shorten the game, shorten the number of possessions. I think it's going to be a lower-scoring game. So I would not bet the over there. And then this game, Notre Dame at Florida State. Notre Dame 7-point favorite. I have them as 13.83 point favorites. I really like Notre Dame minus 7. If you can still get minus 7. 57.3 I have as the total. Excuse me. Florida State's, really in a transition period. Bobby Bowden passed away this last year. I mean, he's been out of the game for a few years, but they're really kind of still trying to kind of find themselves, and hopefully they'll get there eventually. So before we wrap things up, let's talk about the NFL game on Thursday. Next Thursday, we've got the Cowboys at the Buccaneers to kick off the NFL. And there's not even a Thursday night college game next week because they don't want to compete with this game. Bucks are 7.5-point favorite. 52 is the total. -7 is my model, and 49.17 is my total. I have a lot more confidence in my NFL model than I do in my college model. So the play here for me is the under. You may want to watch the total on this game. It's the beginning of the year. It's two of the most popular teams in the league. Everybody loves Tom Brady. Everybody loves the Cowboys. A lot of public bettors, casual bettors, will bet the over. They like to see points scored. They think there's going to be a lot of points scored. So you may see this number go up. And I believe, if you're getting 3 or more points difference between your model and the total, that's a good value bet. So I like the under here at 52. I like it a lot more at 52.5, but you could see this go up to 53 maybe in the next week. But I'm going to take it at 52 just to have it on my record for this week's podcast. And it'll be fun to have the NFL back. So let's wrap it up with some picks for you. I've got Notre Dame -7 at even money. I can't believe that number is still there. Notre Dame has the most preseason All-Americans of any school. I really like them to win. Alabama -19. Favorites have done really well in this first week of college football. Northwestern -3 tonight. And then Purdue under 69. Hopefully that will be a nice win for me. And then Dallas and Tampa Bay under 52 next Thursday night. How about them Cowboys? So that's going to do it for this program. So glad to be back for another football season. We're going to start the count back up next week. We'll talk about that. What is the count? And we'll have a way to keep track of how good we are at picking out value bets. So thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoy your football this weekend. Let's play the outro music for you, and let's go get some winners, folks. Take care, everybody.